talking about...
I don't like change.
especially in our medications. Hi, I'm Jess.
And I'm Jess.
And today we're gonna have a rant of a storytime proportion because today's topic, medication side effects. We've had lots of them, often from the same medication, and they all bite.
Yeah. We'll start with me and Keppra. Well, actually, there's a lot going on with me and Keppra. And Topamax. Ooh, oh, okay. We'll start with me and Keppra, and then we'll do Topamax later, because, oh my goodness. So, Keppra, if you don't know, is for epilepsy, or not having seizures. And so it's the first anti-seizure med that I tried. And I slept 22 hours a day. Yeah. So this is when I had just turned 18. I was still finishing my senior year in high school. And I essentially became bedridden for 5 months because I was on Keppra to not have seizures. Yeah. So this is how I became bedridden in high school. Is, yeah, just bad reaction to seizure meds.
Ugh.
Yeah, so it was like, okay, well, I'm alive, but am I living? Yeah. And on top of that, it was also more than 20 pills a day that I had to take.
How? With 2 hours, did any of them have gaps in time where you can take other stuff? Or, did you take them all at once?
All at once.
Ew.
Yes. It was just like, oh, glug, glug. I think at some point it was up to 28 pills a day, so.
Hooray! Mine was the opposite. So I have 2 stories of grifulvin, also known as griseofulvin, also known as the bane of my junior year of college existence. So I have dyshydrotic eczema, which looks like athlete's foot, if you haven't seen it before. And I think what happened was that everyone decided that I had athlete's foot without listening to me and being like, yo, I have athlete's foot on my hands. We should talk about this. And they put me on grifulvin, which is an antibiotic. And this guy gave me all of the in-between side effects. And so I got nausea, vertigo, and insomnia right before finals. And so I'm working on 3 hours of sleep a night. I'm basically useless. And I remember I was in this class for my honors college, and I brought my pills with me. I walked into the office of the professor, slammed them down on the table, and said, hi, I'm currently on grifulvin. It is giving me, I list every single symptom I have, bleh, and I say, look, I can barely stand right now to tell you that I have the symptoms. We had to give a presentation for our final that involved speaking in front of class, and I was like, can I skip the presentation or delay it or do partial credit? Because it's taking all my energy to be here in the room, and I'm basically shaking at this point. And I think something from my sleep-deprived eyes scared her because she's just looking at me like, the more I started listing symptoms, the more her eyes were bulging out of her sockets. And she's all, you just come to class on the day of and give me the disc and we'll call it good. And I did. I literally stood up, put the disc on the table, and walked out the door and went back to sleep because that's all I could manage.
Yeah, and I don't think this one needs practice talking to people. Doing presentations.
It was just, I was just like,
oh, no.
Yeah. And that's actually, I think that happened in the same week as the other situation.
Other?
Yeah, with the same medication.
What happened there?
So again, remember, I'm working on 0 sleep. Very exciting. And I'm taking organic chemistry, as you do as a good bio major, because you do. And we had to do something called thin layer chromatography. Say that 5 times fast. The gist of it is you take some little pieces of paper, you dunk it in a solution, and the different types of stuff in the solution will get soaked up the paper at different speeds, and you get to see lots of different colors. It's very cool. And I bombed it. It looked like a mush altogether, is what it should have been, like nice, dainty, organized rows of stuff. And I could barely function. I'm like, okay, I will take a C, a D, whatever it takes to pass this homework assignment, because I don't care right now. I want to not fall over. And I went to the TA, because you had to actually, before you finish, you had to show your work to the TA to get at least, you had to pass or fail at that point. And the TA was like, it's no good, you have to do it again. And I just start crying. I'm bawling in my goggles in an organic chemistry lab that is using fume hoods because the fumes from the chemicals are that dangerous. Yeah. So I did the same thing that you do when you are presented with dangerous chemicals and your eyes are watering. I left the room. Seriously. You want to get off all the stuff that you're wearing that's covered in the dangerous chemicals, and you want space. Yeah. You get away. Crying means stuff gets in your eyes. Yeah, bad. And I'm visible from the door, crying my eyes out. I think it was snowing that day for some reason, because it's winter semester. And I'm just sitting there trying to cool my jets to redo the thing that I think I'm now failing out of. And the TA walks out and he says, if you don't go back in right now, I'm failing you on participation.
Jerk move.
Which is 30% of the grade.
Sorry, I'm gonna contain my language.
No, it was a jerk move. It was totally a jerk move. And so I start crying more, as you do when you've been told you're gonna fail and you're an honors college kid and you're like, no! I could have been the scream and like just, my life is over.
It's like, what compelled him to say that?
I have no clue. So I start trying to not cry for 5 seconds. The head of the lab walks out. She's a small, very quiet Chinese lady, very exacting. And she looks at me without asking what's going on, and she says, I'm sorry for what you're going through. My husband does not understand. And I'm just like, whoa. And all I remember her asking, she asked me if I had a makeup, and I did. So I'm just like, and she's like, just go home now. It doesn't ask me what's wrong or why I'm crying, just go home. And
which is the right thing to do.
Please kick your crying children out of class. Like, it's just not worth it. But so I go home.
Don't fail them for it now. Kick them out of class.
Yes. Safety good, crying bad, failing bad. But yeah, so I go back, I take my makeup, all goes fine. It's never spoken of again. The TA never makes eye contact with me for the rest of the course, and I still to this day am pretty sure that my apology was that I opened up, we had to do a final that was identify this unknown chemical, and I open it and it reeks of cat litter. And I'm like, oh, I have an amine because it's an ammonia smell. Which is only 1 of 5 out of like the 30 you could do, and they all had like different melting and boiling points by like 30 degrees Celsius. So basically, if I was at least vaguely okay at chemistry, I was gonna pass the final with like a B or an A. So I'm pretty sure that was the apology. If it wasn't, I still appreciate it. I don't think they actually like, I don't think they did anything bad in the system necessarily. I call that my apology.
Yeah.
But it was never spoken of again.
Karma, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Seriously though, that was, I don't actually remember the rest of the quarter besides that, because it was a 2-week drug, so I think I just cried my way through the rest of the quarter.
That's so sad.
Okay, I know you got more stories. Spill.
Oh geez. Okay, well we'll go to Topamax next, because that's the fun one.
Oh dear.
That's the one where, well, okay, this is much later. So I'm out of high school, I'm in college, just a few years into college, and I had not been taking epilepsy meds at this point because, like the previous story, lots of bad reactions. I decided that just living with seizures was easier for me than all of the side effects, which, yeah, scary. which I don't necessarily recommend. It's like a big decision that I had to make, and I mean, for me it was better, but it wouldn't necessarily be better for everyone. Throw that out there. Take your meds. Sorry. But because I have, a doctor described it as paradoxical reactions to medications. It means like, who knows what's gonna happen when I take a pill, like just no idea. So I started this job in manufacturing, and I was using a bandsaw and had a seizure.
Holy crud.
Yes, super dangerous, and I probably shouldn't have been using a bandsaw, but my boss was not a nice person.
What even were you working on the bandsaw? I just sound like everything sounds bad about this.
I was cutting foam to mill down to make plate parts.
So at least if it bonked you in the face, it was foam? But was it high density foam?
Oh, it was very heavy, high density foam.
Ugh. Okay, keep going, but ugh.
Anyway, we'll get to the part about the meds, right? So yeah, hospital's called. I'm required now to be on medication in order to work. So I start Topamax. Within 1 day, I am in my shower and there are dragons.
Were these cute dragons?
There was one, I had my hands like this in the water, and there was a very cute little blue water dragon. And I was like, this is adorable. I think I'm gonna faint.
Oh.
Yes, so I had a lot of hallucinations for the week that I was on Topamax, and I was like, you know what? Not worth it. Gonna stop this one too.
At least it was only a week, I guess.
Well, actually, I was still having auditory hallucinations after that week. So I had the full-on visual hallucinations for the week that I was on it, but then for a few weeks afterward, I could hear things that weren't happening. Like, I kept like insisting, like, oh yeah, what did you just say to me? And like, no one said anything to me. Or like, I heard my boyfriend get up and go to work and he was still in bed. I don't know, like,
that's
yes.
creepy.
Auditory hallucinations are a thing that I didn't know about. Like, you don't necessarily see anything, you just hear a lot of things. But yeah, that went away after a few weeks, which is good.
Which reminds me of, like, they don't talk about any of the weird stuff that can happen. Like, I don't remember what medication it was. I think it's Levaquin.
Mm-hmm.
That's a small one, thankfully, but it just, all of a sudden, the entire right side of my face went numb. Just, and it wasn't like I pinched anything, it was just like, everything's numb. Which is unlike how I normally go numb, that's a different feeling. This was actually, everything felt numb, like tingly, and I'm like, well, that's creepy.
Yeah.
And they don't tell you about those things, or like vomiting 17 times in a row.
Well, the thing is, like, these reactions are so rare.
Yeah.
That it's very unlikely to happen. So they don't want to scare you and like make you like worried, like, oh, I'm gonna start hallucinating, and then you do hallucinate just because you're like so paranoid about hallucinating. So I kind of get why they don't just like mention it at the start, but at the same time, like, you need to know this information. It needs to at least like be in a form somewhere out there. Like,
Or I also feel like a lot is happening now. So like, okay, I went on Singular 2-ish years ago for one pill. One. As soon as I took it, like within first 30 minutes, I was depressed. And not my normal depression. Everything made me want to cry. Like, I could be watching a YouTube ad and just start wanting to cry. Everything was wrong, everything was bad, and...
Well, that's me normally.
But that's not good. This was also not good, but it just felt so wrong. And thankfully, I was lucky enough to be like, spouse of mine, you need to monitor me. And we did, and as soon as 12 hours hit and the pill wore off, I was fine again. And it was creepy. And during that time, I was trying to research it to be like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And I couldn't find information. I found information through what I would consider to be not good sources when you're starting to research on, which we'll be talking about. But nowadays, if you look it up, because I was curious, there's lots of information, lots of legitimate sources on Singular, as a depression, and suicide risk. which is
Yeah.
dang creepy. But I feel like it's like the last 2 to 3 years we've started getting public good sources of info, so people can find out as opposed to guessing if it's actually the expected reaction.
Yeah, and I've noticed with a lot of my meds, there's a ramp up time. So you're expected to take it for a week or two, and oftentimes, like for me, for anxiety, I started a new med, Lexapro. And yeah, so I was having trouble sleeping at night. I started Lexapro, and it got way, way worse. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I went from 6 hours of sleep at night to 2. And I was like just staying up all night thinking like, what if there's an earthquake? What if we get bombed by North Korea? Like, all these things. And I was just like super paranoid and just going nuts. And my psychiatrist was like, just keep taking it. Just keep going and you'll get through the other side. And so I did, and I did eventually get through to the other side, and now it's like super helpful. So yes, there's this side effect, but it eventually is okay. So yeah, I think now anytime I start a new med, I'm gonna give myself like a couple weeks to ease into it. But at the same time, if I miss it, like if I miss a single day and then go back on it, the anxiety comes back, like the really bad anxiety, but only for like 2 days.
At least you can prepare for it. I feel like that's, you know it's coming, and so you can kind of work with it, but still,
Yeah. I've also noticed that I had to move my pills away from where I was storing them because it was right above my kettle.
Ooh.
Which I hadn't thought about, but if you don't think about it, then... But what happened was, because I'm always running my kettle, the steam is like getting up into the pill cabinet, and it's, you know, degrading my meds, so they're just getting weaker over time. And so whenever I switched to a new bottle, it was like all of a sudden super potent as opposed to like my weakened version. So I'd like get a spike of anxiety anytime I had a new bottle.
Okay. Which, reminder now, right now, go check where your medication is and if it's in a good spot.
Cool, dry place. Not frozen, just cool.
Oh God. I hope none of you are freezing. Have you frozen your meds?
No, but I've seen other people do it. I don't know the purpose of that, but I don't think it's good. I mean, I guess they try to preserve for long, I don't know.
Unless it's...
Store them like in a medicine cabinet in the bathroom, probably. Unless you take really hot showers though.
Still.
But it's probably better than above a tea kettle.
Unless your medication is actually yeast, because that, I feel like you can store yeast at frozen, and that's a good thing for it. But even so, I would not want to. I take a probiotic. I would not want to freeze it. So it's just like, yeah.
You also don't want to put them in direct sunlight.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, treat your meds like you treat your wine and beer.
Which reminds me, I want to get a chocolate cabinet that's basically a wine cabinet, and then I could put my medicine in there too, because it's not a bad idea actually.
Oh yeah, medicine wine, cabinet. Chocolate, and medicine all get stored in sort of the same type of area.
Not how I thought we were gonna end this video.
You should have a chocolate cellar.
That's what I'm trying to get. So most chocolate cellars are actually wine cellars.
Yeah.
Because then they can control humidity.
But no, I mean like a cellar, like underground. That would be cool.
That would be
like
so
Cask
cool.
of Amontillado.
The bar of Amontillado.
The bar of Amontillado. That would be awesome.
The sad thing is I would totally do that.
Amontillado!
I mean, I have weird enough stuff in my cabinets that you want to look at in the dark, so... Oh dear.
This video took a weird turn.
That's okay though, it involves chocolate.
Yeah.
We're good. Alright, now we've made you think of chocolate and medicine in the same thought. We would love to hear from you lovely peeps in those comments below. We want to hear your stories here. We are definitely not alone, and we know you're out there and have suffered and learned. And what have you learned about your medications? What do you wish people said when you first got on them? But let's make it a useful thread for learning about your medications. Ding. And with that, we'll catch you lovely peeps
Next time.